Welcome to the Jazz Notes Podcast. I'm Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
I'm trying this again. You can find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops and see Holt Sports. Read us at KSLSports.com. Same with Blue Sky. We are recording this on November 24th. I think there's only going to be one podcast this week because Thursday is Thanksgiving when we usually record the second one. But as always, we like to start with our news of the week. We'll look at the games that were, the games that will be, and then we will get your mailbag in the second half of the show after the break. But let's start with the little bit of news that we have coming out.
Yes, so it was reported by Jake Fisher that in a prospective Lauri Markkanen to the Detroit Pistons trade, I feel like the Pistons and the Spurs were the two teams that were like, oh, it makes a lot of sense for Lauri to go there.
Those are the two names that have consistently been brought up.
Yes. Jake Fisher reported that the Jazz would almost definitely want Ausar Thompson from the Detroit Pistons in that deal. Previously, it had been reported that it's like, oh, Tobias Harris, salary filler, first-round picks. That name hadn't been mentioned, but then Jake Fisher said Jazz would almost definitely want him in that deal.
And yeah, I don't think he's like really reporting this, that
Yes.
like the Jazz have asked for Ausar Thompson in a trade. I don't think that's at all the case. If these teams have talked at all, you know, I mean, I'm sure everyone kicks the tires on everybody just to see what's out there. And, you know, you can line up the salaries and it's not that hard to do. And here's like, if you were to include Ausar Thompson, how it would look. You could do Lauri and Cody Williams for Tobias Harris, Duncan Robinson, or Isaiah Stewart and Ausar Thompson. And I think they both work. I could go back and adjust this and trade it. But I know with Tobias, Duncan Robinson, and Ausar Thompson, it would definitely work. Again, I don't think this is actually anyone's reporting this. It makes sense. Just the Jazz would want this. Like, why do you want Jaden Ivey? Jaden Ivey, 2 years ago, maybe the hope that he could turn into something. He's never on the court. When he is on the court, he's not been particularly effective. And the Jazz have a bunch of guards right now. You know, I don't think that necessarily makes a ton of sense to me. Tobias Harris is just an expiring contract. If you could get Isaiah Stewart, he would be helpful. Duncan Robinson, you're probably looking to turn around and flip to somebody else already. So Ausar would be the prize piece there. I don't imagine the Jazz are like so in love with Ron Holland that you have to get Ron Holland. Even though he's a fine player, we liked him in the draft a couple of years ago. I enjoyed his game as well in what was a not very good draft. So if the Jazz wanted to have that opportunity, I think it would make sense. And yeah, I think to your point, it's just as well as Lauri fits on basically every team around the NBA, there's just not that many teams that need him and have pieces that the Jazz might be interested in return.
Yeah.
San Antonio does, because could you get a Dylan Harper or could you get a Steph Castle? And it's like, I honestly don't know. Probably not. They might not be willing to give those guys up, even though Lauri is easily playing at an all-star level this year. And similarly, Detroit probably draws the line at Ausar and says no, which I actually think historically that's the wrong decision for a lot of teams. You overvalue your young players. Speculating on some untapped potential, it's like, Ausar is not a good offensive player. Certainly not a scorer. You know, he's broken 20 points only a couple of times in his career. And if you are close and you think you have a chance to win a championship, Lauri should be the guy who pushes you over the top. Yeah. And honestly, what he brings is probably more value than what Ausar brings. That's my thought on the perspective.
It's really funny, and I think a lot of NBA trades are like this. I think without Ausar Thompson in the trade, like any of the four, Jaden Ivey, Isaiah Stewart, Ron Holland, all those guys, and Tobias Harris, any of that combination for Lauri, I think that's a bad trade for the Jazz. But then if you add Ausar Thompson, it's Ausar, Isaiah Stewart, whatever else in picks, then it's like, okay, I don't think the Pistons do that. So it's sort of a unable to be balanced scale on either side. But with that said, like if the Jazz could get, I think, Isaiah Stewart and Ausar Thompson, I think that, one, you get a really good defender in Thompson, and then the Jazz center, especially with Walker Kessler, how that position is lacking, so getting Isaiah Stewart helps a lot. And then, of course, I assume a good amount of picks in that trade. I personally would like that trade a lot, but who knows?
I don't think the Pistons are including picks if they throw in Ausar.
Yeah,
like if it were to get push comes to shove, they're not giving you Ausar, who's a former top 5 pick, who's the 5th overall pick, and all these other these other future firsts. And in all honesty, if I were the Pistons, I would probably rather trade Ausar and hold on to all my picks, because all around the NBA now, you see these teams in jail, including the Jazz a little bit this season, because of their own picks that they have traded when they were at their absolute highs, thinking this is going to last forever. I mean, look at Phoenix right now. They're just they're in hell. It's horrible for them. The Jazz are in this tough spot where 4 seasons in a row or 3 seasons in a row, they're having to tank to hold on to their own pick. Like, I get it. Ausar's a better player than what you get with your 28th pick, 29th pick, wherever the Pistons are this year or next year. But, like, you don't know where you're going to be at 2030. The league turns over so quickly now. Honestly, if I were the Pistons, I would just hope that I could get another stellar defensive player later at the end of the first round and just draft those types of guys and hope I find a Herb Jones who, might be 75 cents to Asar's dollar, but it's fine. I got to hold on to my pick, and I got Lauri, So that's just kind of how I'd view that. I know it seems like this. It's just such a weird line for me to, like, draw the line at Asar Thompson, or a year and a half ago it was Brandon Pajemski. It's just like these weird guys you draw the line at. Historically, these young guys do not become superstars. I get it. The Jazz should not trade Ace Bailey right now. That should be a guy that you're like, just way too much potential there. It's why the Spurs shouldn't trade Dylan Harper and wouldn't trade Dylan Harper or a Steph Castle, I don't think. I'm not sure Asar has shown that he's in that class of player.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would be willing to, if I was Detroit, at least kick the tires on that. I don't know. I think this is all speculation at this point, though.
I agree. I think it's speculation. With that said, I also think, I think him going to Detroit is much more likely than him going to San Antonio, for example. And those are the two names. And not to say that another team can't come out of the woodwork.
Sure, absolutely. And they fully could.
Yeah. But, I just thought it was very interesting and something to talk about that and makes a lot of sense. Like, Lauri Markkanen is almost averaging 30 points a game right now. And he is, he's playing like a top 15 player in the NBA. Like, the past 2 years, he's been around 35 to 45 in all the top 100 lists from any publication. But right now, he's playing like an all-star, like cut and dry. So.
And they're 14-2. They desperately need three-point shooting. They don't have it. And Lauri's, maybe the best great three-point shooter available on the market right now. And the East is wide open. They have a real argument if they were to add Lauri to be the favorite to come out of the East. And look, the Pistons, where they have been, where we get a question about this in the mailbag on Blue Sky, but 3 years in a row, they had the worst record in the NBA, at least back-to-back years, and they fell to fifth both times. You tanked those seasons to put yourself in a spot to win a championship.
Yeah.
And, you saw Indiana was an Achilles tear away or a good, I think it was game 4 at home. They were up on the OKC with a chance to go up 3-1. That was right there for them.
Yep.
You do everything in your ability to win a title.
Yes.
And they kind of have that opportunity. And if you were to get Lauri, you might really have that opportunity. So it would be almost a no-brainer for the Pistons, as long as you didn't have to give up Asar and all of your picks. I would want to have one or the other. And honestly, I'd probably rather have my picks, as I think that's probably contrary to the majority. But it's kind of how I would view it. And then you can maintain your flexibility down the line because you can make further picks or further trades with your picks. So I don't know. And
that's the thing is, you're talking about now is the time to buy in for the Pistons, and you're absolutely right, because I don't remember if it was the same year or the year after, but the OKC Thunder traded for Alex Caruso, got off of Josh Giddey, and then he was instrumental in their championship run.
Yeah.
There are times when you buy in, and even if it doesn't work, you can say that you tried, and I think that is the position the Pistons are in.
Yep.
So
I agree. Again, I just don't think there was anything urgent here.
Yeah.
Nor do I think the Jazz would feel rushed to make a trade like this at all. And I think the other thing is, if you're worried about the Jazz not holding on to their pick, and if Lauri is going to be the difference, I do think the Jazz would just sit Lauri for 30 games if they had to.
Yeah.
In all honesty, they'd just be like, oh, I'm too sorry your wrist hurts.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt? Yes, it does. If the Jazz are, right on the borderline of we want to go into we being the Jazz talking here. I'm not saying we the Jazz. We want to go into the lottery with the 6th best odds of winning because it basically guarantees you hold on to your pick.
Yeah.
Very, very low opportunity that you would fall to 9 from that spot, which is what you have to do to lose your pick. I think the Jazz would just rest Lauri. And then you get your pick and you have Lauri.
Yeah,
and then next season you can start things up again. So anyways.
All right, let's look at the last week for the Jazz. We predicted 0-3, and they went 0-3. Started with a loss to the Lakers. That was LeBron James' season debut, 140-126, and then followed that back home, lost to the Thunder, 144-112. That was a close game until about 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and then lost to the Lakers. That was yesterday, 108-106.
It's kind of interesting. The Jazz had absolutely fallen apart defensively. I had put this stat out there on Twitter. This was before this last game where they actually played very good defense, I thought, or at least limited the Lakers. The Jazz, over their previous 7 outings before Sunday night's loss to the Lakers, the Jazz had allowed 948 points in 7 games. It's an average of 135 points a game. That had only happened to 2 other franchises ever. The Philadelphia Warriors in 1962, and then the Denver Nuggets did it a bunch of times between 1982 and 1990 because the Nuggets were just one of the worst defensive teams. That's why Mutombo was such a big deal for them if you don't know that history. But he kind of came in and provided a defense. They just would, every game was 150 to 140. Like that's how every game finished, and they lost most of those games. But they gave up so many points. That's where the Jazz defense was. It was one of the worst in the world. I mean, it was weirdly not the worst defensive rating in the NBA over that stretch. But when you're giving up that many points, you don't really have a chance to win games. One of them did go to overtime or double overtime, so that's why it kind of spiked that way. But regardless, it did spike that way. So to fix that against the Lakers and only give up 108 points in that loss was a move in the right direction. Though I do wonder if that had more to do with the Lakers than it did with the Jazz necessarily. Locking down is a great defensive team.
In this week, something I want to point out, Keontae George, here are his stat lines, points and assists the last 3 games. 34 points, 8 assists, first game against the Lakers. 20 points, 8 assists, game against the Thunder. And then yesterday, 27 points, 8 assists. Like consistently 20 plus and 7 plus assists. Another really good week for Keontae.
Yeah, he is. It's getting to the point where this is just kind of the norm.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, he's on a hot start or, hey, can you keep this up? It's just like you expect him to go out and every night play extraordinarily well. And for the most part, he has been. He has yet to score in single digits this season. His lowest scoring output has been 10. I think he's done only once. But yeah, he's basically scoring 20 points a night easily. Like you mentioned, 33, 34, 20, and 27 over his last 4 games. He's playing exceptionally well. And most importantly, I'll see if I can get this to update. If you only look at his last 3, but even if you include his last 4 games, where again, he's putting up these huge scoring numbers, he's really kind of broken out. He is shooting 48% from the floor and 36% from 3. Like those are the numbers we're talking about. It can't be 39% and 33% from 3. You know, that can't be his shooting splits. But if he's up suddenly at mid-40s from the floor and mid-30s from 3, and he's scoring 25 points a night, you've got an exceptional player on your hands.
Yeah. And
he is looking more and more like that type of guy.
I can't remember exactly last week. I might be exaggerating here. I want to say his 3-point percentage was at like 27% for the year, and now it's up at 30.6. So, yeah, it's really coming together for Keontae George, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, the Jazz need it. The Jazz really need one of these guys to turn into somebody, and I don't think anyone's like make or break opportunity is passing them by, but like I don't think Bryce has had a great year. I think Bryce had a really poor year. Actually, I think Bryce, if you were to say like who's had the most disappointing season so far for the Jazz, I think Bryce is right up front outside of Walker Kessler getting hurt. Bryce has not quite made the jump that it looked like he was ready to coming out of Summer League. And look, it's a long season. I'm certainly not selling on Bryce right now, but I'm sure this is not the start of the year he wanted. I'm sure it's not the start of the year the Jazz kind of hoped he was going to have. So for Keontae to break out the way he has been really, really critical for the team because Lauri is very good and Ace is clearly trending in the right direction. He seems to look more special to me every night we see him.
Exactly. One more thing. I should have looked at season-long stats for this. I don't know if it's a trend for the Jazz, but at least it was in the last week. In the first loss to the Lakers, they lost the third quarter 37-22, and then in the Thunder game 43-20. I don't know if it's something with lineups or like if the guys are losing their legs coming out of halftime or what it is, but the third quarters you could point, I'd be like, oh, that's the reason they lost that game for 2 of the games this week.
The Thunder are just the best third quarter team in the league. They do what the Warriors did in 2015 and 2016, et cetera. When they just went to halftime, they just kind of sleptwalked to the first half and they came out and they crushed you. And then the game was over and your will was broken. You didn't have to do anything, which I think you talked about last week. Shea leads the NBA at whatever in scoring and then would be the second leading scorer just through 3 quarters.
Yes.
Right? Like it's just an absolutely absurd number. So that's how good they have been through 3 quarters. No surprise. The Jazz should lose that game. The Jazz are nowhere close to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are a machine and the best team in the league right now. And, the Lakers were obviously going to be hyped at home with LeBron. And the Jazz aren't going to win a lot of games on the road. Jazz should be a very smelly road team. And they have been so far. And I expect to see that more and more. And then last night, they're going to be good at home. They had a chance to win it, and they didn't. Yes. But Jazz sit at 5-11. The Jazz, where were they, 5-8 last time we talked? And there's kind of some fans who were worried when they were 3-5. Like, are they going to win too many games or 3-4, whatever they were? Probably not. Yeah. They're probably going to lose a lot. We talked about this stretch going up to Christmas. They're going to pick up wins over the Kings on Friday, and we can look ahead of what's coming up. But probably just not a lot of wins coming. And you're going to then have to start to debate, maybe that Pistons trade starts to make a little bit more sense, or just handing the ball over to Ace a little bit more and seeing how much he can do starts to make a little more sense.
All right. Like you said, let's look at the next week for the Jazz, and we can even take this out further if you'd like. But this week in Golden State on Monday, that's tonight, and then return home to host the Sacramento Kings on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, and then hosting the Houston Rockets on Sunday, another Sunday game.
Yeah, you get the Rockets in Salt Lake City on back-to-back nights, Sunday afternoon and then Monday night next week, but we'll do a show before that. Yeah, it's a tough week, you know. I don't think 2-2 is impossible. I think 1-3 is very realistic. The Warriors are pretty beat up tonight. Their front court is pretty decimated by injury right now, and they just have not played very well, truthfully. But the Jazz have not been good on the road, and the Warriors are going to be hungry for a win, and I think you're going to get a lot of Steph and a lot of Jimmy Butler, and those are two good players, better players than the Jazz have. So I would expect the Warriors to win this game. I'd expect the Jazz to win on Friday night. And unless the Rockets just absolutely no-show, which has not been the case this year, and you know what they do really well? They offensive rebound, which means they've got bigs down low, and they defend, and they're, I think, the number one offense in the NBA right now. The Rockets should beat the Jazz both games.
Yes. Even though it is back-to-back, and sometimes it can be tough to beat the same team twice in a row. Yeah, I'm with you. Honestly, I would not be surprised if this is the continuation of a losing streak for the Jazz. If they lose tonight, lose to the Kings, and then it's like, okay, they're probably going to lose both games to the Rockets. We could be looking at another situation, I think, probably around the same time last year. Like we talked about, the Jazz had their 5th win on December 5th or 6th last year, coming off of a long losing streak. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think it is safe to say 1-3, they win one of these games.
They're going to beat the Kings.
Yeah.
The Kings are a mess
right now.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get your mailbag questions. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, we always like to wrap up the show with our mailbag. You can find me on Twitter at Ben's Hoops, Chandler at Holt Sports. You can also reply to me on Blue Sky or just DM me throughout the week. We'll start with my DMs on Twitter. We'll jump over to Blue Sky and we'll come back to the replies. Dan, USU the Right Blue, says, besides AJ DeBonsa, we don't get super into the draft this early, but he does say, besides AJ DeBonsa, are there any other draft prospect in the state to watch out for in the later first or second round? Richie Saunders could be an NBA player.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's got a real chance to make it in the NBA. He's a very solid guard. He's a reliable shooter. He plays extremely hard. So I think that's going to give him a chance to make the NBA. He's got good size. I've not actually seen him in person, or I've not stood next to him, but I've seen him at some Jazz games, I believe. Yeah. I've seen AJ obviously at a lot of Jazz games recently. But so I think he does have a chance to make it as an NBA player. I would keep an eye on Terrence Brown at Utah. Okay. He's the guard that just transferred in as a junior. Because he's averaging 25 points a game, and he gets downhill, and he's not shooting particularly well, but big guards, I think he's 6'5", who can get downhill and score, have a chance to make it. Like Caleb Love, who played for North Carolina and then Arizona and shot 36% from the floor his entire college career, but could do one thing, which is get downhill, and he hit a couple of big baskets, is in the NBA. He plays for the Portland Trailblazers. He's on a 2-way contract, but I could see Terrence Brown, with his size, his ability to get to the paint, he just kind of, I've watched a couple of Utah games, and he just looks like he looks like an NBA player to me. Yeah, I could be wrong, and he's a little bit older. Again, he's a junior, but I won't be surprised if he ends up getting an opportunity to make it.
I think Richie Saunders is a good bet. Just shooters make the NBA. You see Brandon Carlson, he doesn't play a lot, but he can shoot and he can stretch the floor, and he's kind of a niche player, so he's on the OKC roster.
Speaking of which, shooters, MJ Collins plays for Utah State, had 40 last night, 8 of 12 from 3. Yeah. Weirdly, he's not been a great three-point shooter his whole career, but guys who do find a way to shoot, and he's shooting 52% from 3 this year, you get a chance to make it. Yep. So, and I hate to overlook anyone at Weber State. I have not watched Weber State basketball yet this year, other than I guess I did watch them lose to Utah. So, yeah, I've seen a little bit of them. Yeah, there's always a chance. But, Rob Wright at BYU, I don't really like him as an NBA prospect. He's little. He kind of reminds me of a ball hog.
He reminds me of Colin Sexton a little bit. Mostly just the way he moves.
Yeah, for sure. No, I can definitely see what you're saying there. He just doesn't shoot well. Yes. Again, Colin's a 40% three-point shooter. It's really, can't overlook that. Rob Wright just dribbles a lot. Yeah. Man, he's just give AJ the ball. Give Richie Saunders and AJ and Kay Bakeda when he's healthy the ball. Kay Bakeda's interesting too. He's just really big and athletic.
How tall is he?
Not big.
Okay.
Yeah, that's his problem. Yeah. And he's not like Oscar Tshiebwe as a rebounder, which would be his best opportunity.
Yeah, he's 6'9".
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's probably pretty generous.
Yeah.
He might be 6'7",
Okay.
at best. So we'll see. But yeah, those are the guys I would keep an eye on. I think that's it for my DMs on Twitter. Let me check just to make sure that there's nobody else who would. I did get one from Cash Merrill. Said, I had another question for the show. Locke had a show yesterday about Will Hardy's offensive coaching genius, which may be true. I wonder if there's any concern that he may be awesome at offense but can't teach defense. I'm not sure if it's true in the NBA, but the Utes have been so defensive-minded, it's really hard to get an equally awesome offense over the years. He's talking about college football. Mm-hmm. Does that translate to the NBA coaches? Do the Jazz need to find their Jason Beck to cover Will's opposite? I have no idea if that's true or not, but just curious. Of course, it's bizarre that the Jazz have had the worst defense in back-to-back years. And again, last year was on purpose.
Yeah.
But we're so bad until last night with Nurk at the 5 because, the Phoenix Suns didn't have the worst defense in the NBA last year, and Nurk started at center for them, and the Hornets didn't, and Nurk started at times for them, and Nurk had started in the past, and teams aren't always the worst defensive players. It's do the Jazz just have only bad defensive players on the team? It's I don't think that's necessarily true. Look at the Orlando Magic. They've drafted a bunch of young guys, and we're young, and Jamal Mosley turned them into a really good defensive team. So I think some of that is mindset. Mm-hmm. I think some of that is approach. Definitely some of it is personnel. So yeah, you have to wonder, is what Will Hardy asking the guys to do and his kind of ideas of what means good defense, which for Will is protecting the rim basically at all costs, is that going to win you games? Is that going to allow you to build a successful defense? And if it is, do you just need to have the right players and the Jazz don't have them? I don't know, because I don't actually think the Jazz should be as bad defensively as they are.
Okay, I think that's fair. I also think, for me, the way I look at it is similar to how you can think, okay, will Will Hardy be a good coach in the playoffs? We don't know yet. We haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. To me, it's we haven't seen the Jazz with a good defensive roster talent-wise yet. So it's will he be a good defensive coach scheme-wise when he has those pieces to play with? But with that said, it is weird. You have Walker Kessler. You have some of these guys who should be at least around average, and then you have teams near the bottom of the league who you would think could be a worse team than the Jazz, and they're not defensively, of course. So I don't know. I personally would think it's roster-wise and not necessarily coaching-wise.
I think it's more roster.
Yes.
I think it's how young the Jazz have been. I do think they have some ability. I think Ace is going to be a pretty good defensive player. I do think having Lauri out there as much as you do is a real negative for your defense. He's just not a good defensive player. Mm-hmm. And he's not chopped liver. He's not completely awful, but he's not good. And that's hard when you're 7 feet tall. It's hard when you're that big and play a key position in the front court and aren't a great defensive player, which, if we wanted to go back to the first segment of why would the Jazz trade Lauri, if you feel like you can't ever exceed a certain threshold defensively because Lauri plays, that could be, it's like having Trae Young, but he's 7 feet tall. That's a problem. Yeah. If Trae Young's going to always limit you defensively, you should probably get rid of Trae Young. If the Jazz viewed Lauri that way, I could justify a trade.
Yeah.
But no, I think there's a real question about whether or not his scheme defensively is effective.
True.
I think that's absolutely fair. And then, yes, if Jamal Mosley gets fired by Orlando this year, can you hire him as an assistant to come in and fix everything? Jeff Van Gundy did go to the Clippers last year and really fix their defense. Yes, I think you can do that.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it does have to do with personnel on the court itself. All right, Blue Sky. Let me jump over here really quickly. Again, you can always find us at Ben's Hoop. Jake the Link says, I've heard rumors that the Jazz want to try and start competing next year. If the draft goes well, how realistic is that for them? It's been hard to get a real sense of how bad the team is over the past few years. Could they really make the playoffs as soon as next year, and how does that happen? He continues, like the Pistons apparently went from really bad to really good really fast. Is that something the Jazz roster is close enough to realistically do? I don't. Well, first of all, let's lay out this in a couple of questions. Mm-hmm. The draft going well for the Jazz just means they hold on to their pick.
Yes.
I think it's that simple this year. It's I know everyone wants the top 3, and that would be ideal. You get one of those guys. I think if you hold on to your top 6 or 7 pick, it's the last year you're doing that. Because it's not 2 seasons from now you can be like, okay, now's the time to go for the top 3 pick. It's what have you been doing for the last 4 years?
Yeah.
So I do think this is the last year of this. Mm-hmm. And then all the protections come off the pick, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's conveyed. There's no 2 second-round picks or anything. It's just paid off. The debt's gone. So that's how the draft goes well, is you just hold on to your pick this year. What you do in the offseason is you just go out and you add veterans, mm-hmm. which Houston did with Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, and made the jump to almost a playoff team their first year with them, and then a playoff team their second year. And the Pistons made a jump to a playoff team with Tobias Harris and Paul Reed and Tim Hardaway Jr. I can't even remember.
Yeah.
Everybody had Malik Beasley, all these guys they added last year, and were the 6th seed, and then they jumped up to the number 1 seed this year. Like, so yeah, it's like pretty realistic that the Jazz could make a major jump. I think, one team that's worth looking at that's kind of made this jump, it's because it's this funny thing that's happening in the NBA is like if you just have guys at the right positions, you should probably be pretty competitive. Like the Phoenix Suns are going to make the playoffs, I think, in the West right now just by going out and getting Mark Williams.
Yeah.
He's like a fine player, but he's not a superstar. And Colin Gillespie and Dylan Brooks, like all these kind of like average guys, and Dylan Brooks is above average, but like just getting guys in the right spots, you can be competitive. So yes, I think it's realistic that if the Jazz wanted to, and I would expect they would, spend money this summer in free agency, as long as they hold, even if they don't hold on to their pick, like, what are you going to wait another year again? Yeah. It's just like kind of doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I think the Jazz will kind of exit this stage this summer, and they'll go out and find a way to spend some money on some guys to come in and help right away.
Even with just like progression from Keontae, Walker, Ace Bailey, and of course some of the other guys, like I could see them being a 35+ win team next year easily. That's like a floor almost. And like you could even trade Lauri Markkanen and like just for this to paint this picture, if you get Azar Thompson back, then it's like, okay, you have a defensive piece, and still you're betting on progression. Like Keontae's at 23-7 right now. What's to say he can't be 25-8 next year? You know, and then you're at 18-11 from Walker, and it's like, okay, you have a lot of really good pieces, and then as long as your defense isn't bottom 5 in the league, then it's like, okay, you're a 35-40 win team.
Yeah, or you trade Walker and you get a piece back, that can help you win. Exactly. I think all those things are on the table. Certainly, I just would not rule anything out as far as team building going forward. And, there's a bunch of guys in Walker's spot this offseason that did not get contract extensions that I would be curious if the Jazz would make a run at a restricted free agent, which is pretty unusual in today's day and age. But, like, are there guys that could be available that maybe teams aren't in love with the idea of, re-signing? And that way you kind of stay young, but you get a guy who matches your timeline and might be a little bit more proven. Yeah. So I'd be curious at how the Jazz approach that. But, yeah, it's certainly – I expect the Jazz to make a real improvement next season.
Yes.
Like 10 to 15 win improvement next season. They should be competitive. Zombie on Blue Sky says, will the Wizards reach double-digit wins? Who would you like to see the Jazz draft next year if they get the top 5? We just kind of talked about some of the names already in previous episodes. And should the Jazz trade Svi, and what's his value? Will the Wizards reach double-digit wins? Yes.
Yes, they will. But also it's like this Wizards team might be worse than any – like the whatever year 2012, 2014 76ers
and then the Bobcats team.
Yeah, like this might be the worst team. Like none of their young players got better, really, seemingly.
Yeah,
like,
I'm really curious what's going on there.
Yes.
This is a team that has Chris Middleton and CJ McCollum, and I get it. Like they're not trying to win. They're trying to get one of these top picks. It's like you did well. Like you got Koulibaly, who you kind of thought was good, and you won the lottery last year. You got the second pick, and you got Alex Sarr, who's made a jump this year, and you got Trey Johnson, who's now out 2 to 4 weeks with a hip flexor or something. It's just like you've got Keyshawn George, who's like a pretty good player.
Yeah.
At least like they're putting up numbers, but it's just like, are these guys just putting up numbers on a lousy team and they're not actually improving? And if so, then what have you been doing for the last several years?
Yeah.
Like, where's the growth? Like, where's your breakout player? Where's your Keontae George? Where's the guy that has something to show for this? And that is the trap of this. Like, this controlled plane crash can just turn into a real plane crash if you're not careful. And then there's no survivors. And that might be what happens here with Washington, which is just like they've already fired their last general manager to bring in this new guy. The coach can get fired. It's like all of these things can go wrong really quickly. So they will get to double-digit wins, but, yeah, they're probably easily headed towards the worst record in the NBA.
Yeah.
And we'll see. Jazz got the 5th pick out of it last year.
Yeah.
Like, if you do that and you get Koa Pete and the rest of your roster's not good, is that good enough? Maybe it is.
Yeah.
It might be.
Even though we're questioning them, at the end of the day, they're NBA players, and I don't think a team of NBA players is going to lose or only win 9 games in an 82-game season, but
I don't think so. But, man, it's not great.
Yeah.
The one justification for the Jazz having the worst record in the NBA last year was like, I think Ace might be a lot better than Trey Johnson.
Yeah.
Like Trey Johnson started, he's had a couple of moments, he's had some games, he moved into the starting lineup, he got benched again, has been moved back to the second unit. Let me just pull him up really quickly because this draft class has been fascinatingly good. It kind of doesn't, it's pretty unusual how good it's been. Like low-key in New Orleans, both of their draft picks have been really good. Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen have both been awesome. Now they gave up way too much to get Derek Queen, I think, but man, he's been awesome. Derek Queen He's averaging 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Remember, like could barely play at the beginning of the season. So he's coming back like gangbusters and putting up these huge numbers. Ace Bailey, it's funny because you look at his numbers. He's averaging 9 points. He's averaging the fewest of anyone in the top 7. That really changes if you just look since he moved into the starting lineup because he had such a slow start to the year. Trey Johnson's averaging 11 points, 3 rebounds. He's shooting 39% from 3 and 44% from the floor. It's like, it's kind of nice, but you've watched his games recently. It's just like, it's kind of hard to have out there.
Yeah.
It's tough. And he's little and he's a shooter. It's just like, those guys can make it, but Ace just looks so promising.
Yes.
If you've seen him on the floor and what he's done defensively and his rebounding, just all the things that really seem to matter to impact winning lately. I don't know. We'll see. And Con Knippel's just like the best player in the NBA apparently, which is great. Con Knippel's racing towards the rookie of the year, which I loved Con Knippel in the draft, but I did not see him averaging 19 and 6 his first season in the NBA. This has been
crazy,
absurdly impressive from Con, but we knew he could shoot, and he can certainly shoot.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all our mailbag questions. Oh yeah, and if you can trade Svi, you should.
Yeah.
Like Denver should go trade for Svi Mikhailiuk right now.
Yes.
They're missing Christian Brown. They're missing Aaron Gordon. Like you need another shooter. Not all their moves in the offseason have panned out as well. Michael Porter Jr. is playing out of his mind right now in Brooklyn. He's just out of his mind, period. But he's also playing out of his mind. But like that's a team that could use Svi in an emergency.
Yeah.
So.
All right, over to X now. First up from Jimbo Slice. Are the jerseys that the players wear during the games the same exact jersey you would buy at the team store? They look a little different to me.
Quickly, let me address a previous question from Jimbo that I said I would do research on, and I did, and I just forgot to answer you last time. Jimbo, I believe, asked how many jerseys are there for players on the road. Mm-hmm. So I went and talked to Klauke, who does he's like the Jazz's equipment manager, and is one manager of the year. And Klauke's really funny. He's just like kind of grumpy. Yeah. He's like a younger guy. He's been with the Jazz forever, but he's a younger guy. He is the late Steve Klauke's son. But he was like, I honestly don't know anymore. And I was like, what do you mean you don't know anymore? It's got to be 2, right? He's like, well, guys do so many jersey swaps now, which I hadn't even thought of. It's not, oh, your jersey gets torn up. It's guys are swapping their jerseys after every game with friends around the league and AAU dudes. And also the NBA now wants so many jerseys back for certain events. It's like, there's the first game jersey that they put the patch on now, and then they I don't know if they auction it or the league holds onto it in case they turn into superstars or what all is happening. It's like there are so many jerseys that the league wants that it just sounds like you have to have a ton of jerseys to the point where he didn't know how many they had for each play. It's not just a set of like, well, you take 2 and that's it.
Yeah,
like it's just a ton because some guys swap 3 jerseys a night. It's not just the nights it's not just the jersey they actually wore.
Yeah.
So, let me answer that question. And then I honestly don't know the difference between what's in the store. I haven't examined that closely because I don't spend a lot of time in the team store versus what the players wear. I would listen to it. Certainly that there would be even a little bit difference at that level, but I know they do when they sell the authentic jerseys. Like the idea is that these are the authentic jerseys.
Yeah.
They're also just, the players, the jerseys where these guys are huge. So
massive,
they're just massive people. So the jerseys look different in person on those players because they are different shape than our friend Jimbo.
Yeah.
He's just Ace Bailey's 6'10", whatever he is. He's just he's a huge person. So they do look a little bit different to me as well. But if they say they're authentic, I would assume that they mean it.
Next, from Jake the Lynx, going with the holiday, he says, what is the biggest cool thing about this current team/Jazz season that you think Jazz fans should be thankful for and appreciate?
Ace Bailey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest one.
You hit on a guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not, again, you look at Ace's season stats and people might be like, that's not been good. It's like, no, Ace has been borderline exceptional. Mm-hmm. He has been so much better in the places I didn't know he could be to start his career that, again, the funny thing is like I went back and watched some Rutgers stuff just because I was like, let me make sure I wasn't totally off on everything I said about him. I reread my article about, what he would mean for the Jazz. And the stuff that made him pop at Rutgers, he's not doing yet.
Yeah.
And he will. Like, the crazy, like, oh, yeah, there's just a guy on me. I'm just going to shoot over you every time. Like, that's coming. Like, the reason he was getting comped to Tracy McGrady or, like I told you, he's the most audacious shot taker since Kobe Bryant, just like rise and fire guy, that's coming. He's just not doing it yet.
Yeah.
But that part of his game has not disappeared, which is funny because the guy I think you're seeing now is probably more similar to who he was in high school.
Yeah.
Because he talked about it, and there's like the famous. They were like, "Give us your weaknesses and your 2 strengths," and he said, "I got more than 2 strengths, and I ain't got no weaknesses, dog," or whatever he said. It was a great answer. And it's like, oh, he's not lying.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he's not a great dribbler. Like, he's got some weaknesses, obviously. He's young still, but like, oh, the things he said, yeah, I can do all these things. I just didn't do them. He's totally right on. He's a great rebounder. He's a really good passer. Like, he's going to be a good defensive player. He thinks the game at a high level. Like, last night's game, again, it's just a small thing, but it's like he rebounds the ball. I think it's the end of the first quarter, maybe it's the first half, whatever it is. And he goes coast to coast, which usually he catches the ball and he kicks it to the point guard because that's his job. But he grabs it and he says, oh, there's 37 seconds left on the clock. This is a 2-for-1 opportunity. And if I pass the ball, we eat up a second and a half. Well, no, I'm just going to go with it. No one's guarding me. So we're going to keep this 2-for-1 opportunity alive. I'm going to drive into the paint. I'm going to draw 2 defenders. And I'm going to kick the ball to flip for a dunk. Like, it's just really high basketball IQ stuff. And it's simple and it didn't look hard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Not a lot of guys, like Taylor Hendricks isn't doing that. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the Jazz young players are not thinking the game already that quickly. And he just made that read really quickly by just saying, I rebounded the ball. I'm lightly familiar with the game situation. I know it's the best for the team here, and I'm going to go and execute it. Like, it's really high-level stuff for a 19-year-old. And it's really impressive. So you see that, and then you see what he's been since he's moved into the starting lineup. 13.5 points, 3.6 rebounds, 2 assists, 52% from the floor, 38% from 3. And again, this is all without being the guy. This is all without him doing ace things. And the ace things will come, and people are going to forget about how impressive those were.
Yes.
So, no, that's, if you're wanting something to be thankful for, it's that Ace Bailey is better than advertised and was already really, really highly anticipated.
Another thing, I think Ace is undoubtedly the top thing to be thankful for, but number 2 would be the Keontae jump, but not necessarily because you have a good player now. But I think that you have proof now that the Jazz's development
Can work.
It can work.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, what is the last player that Washington, New Orleans, Brooklyn developed to be good? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
it's been a while.
Yes, exactly. Like, for the Pelicans, it genuinely might be Anthony Davis.
Yeah, like, I like Trey Murphy. I like Herb Jones. They're not winning games. Like, they're winning games at a worse rate than the Jazz, despite the fact that they should be way ahead of them.
Yes, exactly.
So it's very concerning.
But yeah, you have proof that the Jazz can do that now. And like, don't get me wrong, it has to be within the player, right? Like, a development team can't turn Cody Williams into LeBron James, but you can help a lot. And clearly Keontae has gotten the help he needs to be again, the Jazz are bad, he probably won't get there, but his stats are borderline all-star.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that Lauri has become the best player he's ever been.
Yes.
You know, now you do, whether you trade him or not, if you don't, great, you have an all-star player. Like, Lauri's going to the all-star game this year because of the new format. It's the top 8 European player or international players, and Lauri's one of them. Like, he's going to go to the all-star game this year. That's barring an injury. It's a borderline guarantee already, which is funny. We're only 15 games into the season, but if he continues to play at even remotely this level, his stats are going to be good enough to get him onto that international team. The fact that you can either have the best trade asset in the NBA midseason, not named Giannis, and Giannis is not getting traded in season, or you just have a good player going forward. Those are all very huge positives for the Jazz that, you know, I think probably have gotten a little bit lost in the sauce with concerns about the draft pick.
Next up from Cisco. Would it make more sense for the Jazz to go get Daniel Gafford and Najee Marshall from Dallas, sending Kyle, Svi, Young Guy, and the Lakers pick? Austin said the team would be a playoff team with better defense. Ace, Key, and Lauri could be the core moving forward.
I wouldn't bail out the team right now by going and getting a Band-Aid center.
Yeah.
I would do it this offseason.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. I would look at improving. And again, we've answered questions of how did the Jazz get better this offseason. Like, yeah, Daniel Gafford's the type of player who comes in and is just like, yeah, he's the best backup center in the NBA, or he starts and, you know, you figure out what to do with him. But I honestly just wouldn't bail out the team right now. I would just say, like, this is the team we're running with.
Yep.
And barring like a can't miss home run trade, like if you absolutely were in love with Asar Thompson or whatever, I don't think I would make any just kind of like improvement around the edges trades. I would either make a big swing, in all honesty, or I don't think I would do anything minor.
Yeah.
Other than like Kevin Love for a second round pick.
Yeah.
Svi for a second round pick.
Speaking of that, Jazz Time Jones says, will the Jazz trade any veterans or consolidation on young guys?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. Anything can happen, and it's a bad decision to bet on a player being traded or a deal to be done. But I would think that Svi is not on this team at the end of the year. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, if he has value.
Yes.
He may not have value.
True.
Other teams may just still say, yeah, we don't want him, you know?
Yeah, that's true. The thing that just for me, I'm like, oh, the Nuggets, the Lakers could use him, you know, as like a 8-minute guy off the bench. Why not? You know, add some shooting.
And I think Kevin Love's been has shown that he still has something left in the tank.
Yeah.
He's not been elite by any means. And you look at his percentages, he's 39% from the floor and 33% from three. Well, he basically only shoots threes. And he's shooting a little bit better recently than he was to start the year. I mean, he had 4 threes 2 nights ago. So if he can start showing that a little bit, I think he has a chance to be picked up on a second-round pick or whatever.
Next up, positive Jazz guy. How much money has Keontae made himself with his play this year? Like, would they have extended him at 10 to 15 million a year ago, and now he's going to make 20 to 25 million, assuming he continues to play the way he has?
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
I think had he not gotten a lot better, Jazz would have just slapped him with a restricted free agency. They would sort of picked up his qualifying offer, or not his qualifying offer, picked up his 4th-year option and made him a restricted free agent next summer, not 2026, but 2027. And if he wasn't playing better, I just don't know what types of offers he gets. Now, if they follow the same pathway they did with Walker, which is not pay him and let him hit the restricted free agency still 2 summers from now, if he continues to play this way, he's going to get easily over $100 million, over 4 years. So, you are talking about $25 million if he continues to play at this level and improves.
True.
And he could get even higher than that. I mean, he could easily make, I don't want to say the max, but maybe if he keeps playing at this level. And, let's say the Jazz out of nowhere do get a lot better next year and he's putting up these numbers, you're not crazy to say he's in an all-star conversation. And then you're talking about a 22-year-old all-star. It's like those guys get paid max contracts.
Yeah.
So, again, it's not, if you've been a diehard listener to this show, I was maybe premature last year, but I said there's a world where Keontae averages 20 points a game last year. Like this was the world, right? This is the jump. I was just a year too early on it, but this is not so unforeseen. It was always in there. So it's cool that it has come out for him. But it's going to cost the Jazz more money. But these are the guys. That's what you hope for. Yeah, you draft these guys hoping to find a guy that you can pay a near max contract to or $100 million to be your starting point guard of the future, and he's laying claim to that, which is a good sign.
Next up from Stephen Q. Ritter, what's the most realistic path to getting a second first-round pick in the 26th draft?
Oof. I hope they don't want one.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how many more do you need?
Yeah.
Oh, it's trading Bryce. It's trading Isaiah Collier for a late first-round pick, and I don't think anyone's giving you a first-round pick for either of those guys right now, is the truth. So that would be the pathway. Or trading Lauri and getting, the 30th pick in the draft this year from the Detroit Pistons, or 29th pick in the draft. Like that's the pathway.
Yeah. Next up from G Scones, is the reason Keontae keeps getting regular clutch looks in close games because, and he has some multiple choice answers for you, Key has stepped up to that role and is coach preferred. The Jazz presume Lauri will draw double/triple team. Jazz are just not able to draw up anything to rub Lauri off of screens or other.
It's a little bit of what you're saying at the end, which is not that the Jazz are unable to. There was some nonsense earlier this week. I thought about like Lauri being the hub of the offense. It's like he can't dribble.
Yeah,
guys, it's hard to run an offense through a guy who can't create his own shot. It's really hard to do that. Now you can run him off a million screens. You can give him the ball. He has been better in isolation this year than he has in the past. Like, don't get me wrong. But the reason why late in games Keontae's taking these shots is because he can dribble to a spot on the floor and get a shot off. It's a skill that Lauri doesn't do very well. Lauri's a great player. But if you can't take the ball late and get to your spot, you don't like... Will Hardy's not dumb.
Yeah.
He's very intelligent. He knows exactly what he has in all of these guys, right? He's seen them. His job depends on what these guys can do fully. His ability to make millions of dollars and be famous depends on these guys. So, like, the idea that he doesn't know something is ridiculous. Late in games, they want to get the ball to Lauri. It's hard to get the ball to a guy who's best in catch and shoot situations or coming off screens because teams just blow it up. They just switch everything. They throw everything at you. It's why the late offenses for everybody in the NBA over and over and over is who's your best isolation creator. And I think in a couple of years, it's going to be Ace Bailey.
Yeah.
Right now, it is Keontae. He's the best mixture of shot creator and shot maker that the Jazz have right now. Lauri's a better shot maker than Keontae is. He's not a great shot creator, especially in these late game situations. So until Lauri can add that, or if he never adds it, it's hard to give him that ball. It's much easier to give it to Keontae, where he can grab it at half court and take one dribble and get to the 3-point line. And if Lauri either can't get open or needs somebody to get him open, it really hurts you. It really hurts your value. It's just the truth of it. It's just why Lauri is what he is and why he isn't what he isn't. If he was something different, he would be Kevin Durant.
Yes.
If he could dribble, he would be KD.
Yeah.
He can't. So he's not. Like, it's just so simple sometimes. I'm not trying to be aggressive or annoying about it, but it's just like, why is he not the centerpiece of what they do? Well, the offense revolves around him. My day revolves around getting to work in my car. My car's not the brains of the operation. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so you got to have a guy who can do all of it.
Yes.
Ideally, yes, it would be Lauri. He's 7 feet tall and he shoots 40% from three. You think Will's just like, forgot we had him every single time?
No.
Forgot we had him. No.
Yeah.
It's just what actually works in these situations. And it's what Keontae does. And he hit the game winner against Chicago, which somewhat ironically, he did get the ball from Isaiah Collier. Like, he didn't create that shot, but it was designed to get him the ball.
Yeah. And it's like, Lauri, you're right. He has gotten better with the ball in his hands this year. But like, have you ever seen him do a sidestep three? Or you know what I mean? Like a one dribble pull up, or like, you know what I mean? Like, his scoring is very, like, I can't find a better word than fundamental, but that's kind of it. You know, it's like within the lines of the game. Like, you need a guy who can go outside of the lines, you know, break down your defender a little bit for these last second shots. And it's just, he doesn't have that.
Yep. And I think Ace is going to be the guy going forward at some point. Again, it's not a knock on Lauri. Lauri's excellent. He's averaging, he's a star player.
He's 50, 40, 90, 30 points a game, how he does it.
But
it's just like how he does it doesn't really work when there's 5 seconds left.
It's the end of games. They went to Steph and not Clay.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then Clay's hit big shots too. I'm not pretending it's not possible. And Lauri's possible. And honestly, the best opportunity might be get Keontae one pass away from Lauri. So, or maybe flip that, Lauri one pass away from Keontae. So Keontae draws the defender, can kick it to Lauri.
Yeah.
But it's not the other way around. Yeah. For a reason. Anyways.
Next up, another one from Stephen Q. Ritter. Is it fair to assume that Sensabaugh's offense is struggling because his mental energy is being expended on defense?
It's not an excuse. Like, you got to play both ends of the floor. It's not football. You don't get to come off the field. I do think Bryce is the most player who is most impacted by his confidence.
Yes.
Right now on the floor.
Absolutely.
Of anybody on the Jazz. And it's because Bryce is like a super kid. He's like a super nice person. I think he's really delightful. He's one of my favorite people to talk to in the locker room. I think he gets really down on himself when shots aren't going in or when he's making mistakes defensively. And I think you've seen both of that to start the year. I mean, I had said this several times and it just has proven to be wrong. And I'm not afraid to own it, but like, I thought Bryce's three-point shooting was going to be the single greatest, like, individual skill the Jazz had on their roster this year. And it doesn't mean it's what you build your team around. I'm just saying, like, as far as elite skills, Bryce's ability to shoot threes is crazy. Remember, he was over 45% from three after the All-Star break last year on like 6 or 7 attempts, whatever it was. Crazy numbers. He's at 33% right now. Like, he is not shooting well at all. And then I think he gets really down on himself. And like, he's the easiest guy on the team to read their body language. Like, he like throws his head down when he misses shots now. Or like, if one goes in, he's like, finally. It's like, it was borderline devastating that he had actually stepped out of bounds yesterday on that three and they took it away from him. Like 4 possessions later, it was like, he finally saw one go in and they said, no, that still doesn't count. So I'm sure right now Bryce feels like he just simply can't catch a break.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably impacting him more than anything.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it has anything to do with his defense and how much energy is spent there. I think it is all confidence because, like, I think that's how it is for most shooters. When you're a pure shooter, like, your game is the shots that you make. You know what I mean? Like, that is maybe not necessarily for Bryce, but like for a Kyle Korver or someone along those lines, like, your value is dependent on how many of the 10 threes you take, you hit. So,
but Bryce last year shot 46% from the floor, 42% from three. This year he's at 40% from the floor and 33% from three. Like, he's having a bad year. It's just not been the ideal start for him. And he's got to figure that out. And, you know, if you're tired because you're playing too much defense, get in better shape. Like, that's what Keontae's figured out.
Yep.
I tweeted it out last night. I would really recommend go look at it. It's actually it's on the KSL Sports account. It's on both Instagram and Twitter. It's in response to the game story. If you missed it, go back and watch Keontae's. It's like a 4-minute clip of Keontae talking about his rookie season. LeBron James singled him out late in the game and just went after him over and over and over. And he went to Will and was like, what do I do? Like, what am I supposed to be doing here? And Will was like, you got to play defense. Like, we can't scheme around you not being a good defensive player your whole life. So you got to be good. And then he goes and he forces LeBron into a 3 last night. Like, that's growth. That's what you have to do. You have to fix your weaknesses if you want to stick around in the NBA. So, anyways, I'd recommend going and listen to that. It's all over the KSL Sports social media. It's easy to find.
Last question, I believe, from Tim Hazard. I saw that Walker's brother Houston is a certified NBA agent and that Walker is his only NBA client. Do you have any insight on the role that he has played regarding contract negotiations and also development work where it's been reported the Jazz and Walker aren't aligned?
I just don't think the Jazz were going to give him a contract regardless of who his agent was, unless he wanted to take a massive discount. The funny thing about I think the Jazz like what they're getting offensively with a 5-out approach. Now, ironically, Walker was shooting the heck out of the ball, and not that many attempts, but started to show that, hey, maybe there is some of that to his game, which was probably a hard wrinkle for the Jazz to swallow, not getting to flesh it out more this season because it's, he's out for the year. That's been a difficult break. But, if you wonder why the Jazz maybe didn't pay him, even though the intention was to pay him, I think they wanted to see if there's better options offensively. Will doesn't want to play, I don't think, a pick and roll 5 that doesn't spread the floor. I think he wants to open everything up and have a chance to have all this space. I think it's easier as a coach to do that. I think it's harder to guard. I think that would be the preferred method for the Jazz. So, I don't think it has anything to do with his brother. Yeah. No, I always think it's a little weird when family members end up being the agents. You just worry about how many family members are involved in everything because you're a professional. You got to cut people off. You can't just take care of everyone around you your whole life. And the Kesslers are fine. They've, dad's a doctor and I think he's a surgeon. He's 6'8". He's a surgeon. It's all this. They've got a good life, good family. And I'm sure Walker's happy to take care of his brother if he can, but no, I suspect those are completely unrelated.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it.
Yeah, I don't think. Let me check Blue Sky really quick to see if we got any more late questions. It does not look like it. All right, I think this is our only podcast this week. If that changes, obviously you'll just see it pop up on YouTube or on your podcast feed. Otherwise, worst case scenario, we'll be back with you again next Monday. Find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops, see Holt Sports, visit KSLSports.com. We'll talk to you next week.